Bonjour mon ami de tabarnak, je ne sais quoi, parlez-vous en français? Oui. Yeah. It's the tabarnak. I am, in the Quebec water, okay? Hi. I am trucking along through beautiful, absolutely beautiful Quebec. Full of degens and, the usual assortment of people you don't want to be around. On my way to St. Albans, Vermont. I have done a video going there before. Probably will not do one today because it's going to be dark by the time I get across the border, and
in 800 meters,
that
keep
means,
right to continue on exit 12.
Sorry, I'm going to turn that down, but I don't want to, see if the music kicks on. It did. That's no good. Where was I? Let's see here. I gotta stay on 30 Est. So where was I? It'll be dark by the time I get into the States, so I'll be spending more time concentrating on where I'm going because I've been on this particular route. Like I gotta get off the interstate and go on like 2-lane roads. I've been on this particular road, I think 4 times. Once was at night when it was in a convoy with other people, so I, didn't really need to learn where I was going. I just played follow the leader. Every other time it's been during the daytime, so I mean it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple, but there's a couple turns that if you miss them, you're fucked. So I don't really want to miss those turns. I figured, I would do a little video in, the Canadian Paris, as it were. Because Montreal is somewhere off to the left, hopefully fucking, slowly being filled with fucking water or something, I should say that. I'm sure I've got people from Montreal that maybe will one day, when I'm rich and famous, watch this fucking channel and, like, wait a minute, Dan's a fucking asshole. And they'd be right. But I digress. I thought it was kind of neat. Quebec is one of the few places that I've been to. And I've probably said this before, I've been to every single state in the United States with the exception of Hawaii. I've been to Alaska, and I've been to every one of the lower 48. Hawaii, and I guess if you want to say the whatever the fuck they are, the territories like the Virgin Islands and stuff, I haven't been there, but those aren't the states, so I'm not lying. Most of Canada, right? I've been through all the western provinces. I think the only provinces I haven't been to are Nova Scotia and Ontario and Newfoundland, and then the territories. I have not been to any of the territories. So I've been to more of the U.S. than I've been to Canada, and the one place out of all of them that still feels the most like I'm in a foreign country is Quebec. Part of it is obviously the language. The Quebec government years ago complained to the rest of Canada, the Canadian Parliament, that they were underrepresented throughout the rest of the country, and felt like they were what's the word I'm looking for here? They were treated unfairly by the English-speaking provinces and given what's the word I'm looking for here? Like they were like any Quebecois who went to another province was immediately at a disadvantage because nothing was in French. So obviously, they couldn't speak English, or weren't as good at speaking English or reading English for road signs and stuff. So everybody was out to get them and put them in a disadvantaged position. I'm not entirely sure how that works because road signs are typically just names of towns and shit anyways, like Canal de Barnahois, or whatever the hell that's pronounced. It's just the river that I'm going over. So they got their wish. So almost the entirety of Canada, all of the government street signs and road signs, everything on our highways are all English. They're either, the first sign is English and the second sign is French, or the sign has both languages on the sign, on the same sign. However, if you come into Quebec, there is no English at all. Anyone that comes into Quebec is expected to know French. So it was kind of a, they were able to get away with something that they didn't have to return the favor. So there's almost nothing in written English in Quebec, and certainly nothing that is posted by the government. Even signs that are designed to inform out-of-province travelers are all in French, which I found funny. Like there's several, a lot of signs when you first come into Quebec at the border that I'm going to be leaving, like entering New York State through. And I can't remember what. Oh, it's a sign to tell people to go to to think of to do metric. So it's I don't know what what the line is in French, but it's basically it's trying to tell Americans in French, so a language that almost no Americans understand, that Canada measures in metric units. But it's like there's no English at all. So again, there are I can count on the finger of one hand the number of Americans that are not like celebrities or people that are like fancy pants that can fucking spend all the time in the world learning languages. I can count like 3 people I've ever met that know French at all. Like not even necessarily French fluently, but like can ask to use the shitter if they have to go to Quebec, right? And probably at least one of those people, they can just understand somebody with a French fucking accent. That's about the best they're gonna get. Like the picture of the fucking deer, like the warning sign for the deer. The deer is drawn like it's every other fucking province uses the same sign. They're all the same, right? And I think they're basically the same sign as the U.S. Quebec wanted to be different, so they got some fucking 6-year-old kid to draw a fucking deer, and his front legs are about 8 times the length of his whole fucking body. So the deer just looks, it looks like some sort of fucking space alien fucking god-awful fucking Cronenberg fucking flying at you, rather than a deer. Again, I know it's a deer because it has antlers on it, but its legs are fucking enormous. It's like it's a fucking deer from some fucking My Little Pony world where their fucking feet are huge. Like, what the fuck? The fact all of their you can see they're probably actually I'm going to zoom in just a touch so you guys can see signs better. Like this sign up ahead here, the exit numbers are yellow instead of white. The maximum minimum signs they're just a different they're a different typeface than the rest of the country. One of the ones that I often point out to, especially my American friends, is because again, a lot of Americans have never been to Canada, so they've never seen it at all. Quebec tries to be European. Canada is no, we're North American. We use all of our signage is the same as the U.S. With the exception of stuff that is super specific to Canada. We don't have interstate signs, right? We have the Queen's Highway signs, which are the 400 series highways. Quebec doesn't do that. We do our when any of the exit ramps. I'm hoping to be able to get a shot up ahead here. Canada does the same as most of Canada does the same as the U.S. If you got the signs for a tight curve, which are the yellow sign with a black chevron, kind of indicating that the turn is getting tight. We use those exact same signs. Quebec uses they're not on this ramp because this ramp's not a very tight curve. I'm not talking about the one that's kind of in the middle. That's just denotes, don't fucking keep driving right there because you're gonna fucking die. Quebec uses red signs with white chevrons, which are more. They're similar to what a lot of the Scandinavian countries use. So again, it's something where it's just we want to look European. So there's again, it kind of falls a little bit into that kind of what's the word here? It's not dichotomy. It's not like a dual-edged sword. It's again where the rest of the country's making concessions for Quebec, but then they turn around and don't make those same concessions for others. Language is a problem. There are Quebec seems to be like massively all over the place with regards to people who can speak English. You know, I've got a friend, like an airsoft friend, and like the first time I didn't know she was from Quebec when I talked to her. So the first time I talked to her, she spoke English like anybody else, like me, like she has no accent. And then she's telling me that she's from Quebec. I'm like, what do you mean you're from fucking Quebec? And she's like, I'm from Montreal. Like, we all, you know, most of us speak English like an English speaker, right? And yet, a lot of people in the Montreal area won't speak English to you. Quebec, and it's funny, it's in some TV shows, like Letterkenny brings it up a couple times, and it's tongue-in-cheek, but being, especially because I came out here for work, a lot of that stuff is actually true. Like, there's a lot of the Quebecois that are kind of have this superiority complex. You know, they're sophisticated, they're French, they're more educated than everyone else in the country. And Quebec has very few exports. They've got paper. So Quebec is the entire province runs off of bailouts from the other provinces. That's pretty much the only reason this province exists, is because of bailouts. Like a lot of people talk about all the French pride and stuff, and that's why Quebec wanted to separate from Canada. Quebec wanted to separate from Canada because that means that in order for any ships coming from the Atlantic Ocean to get to Ontario or any of the western provinces up to St. Lawrence would have to go through a foreign country, i.e. Quebec, and Quebec would charge a huge amount of fucking money per ship to travel through their stretch of the St. Lawrence. So Quebec wants to separate from money, that's all it is. But the average Quebecois has this idea in his head that he's better than you. And I shouldn't say that. It seems to depend on the age range and who you're talking to. Most of the younger people from Quebec are actually pretty good. Like, again, my friend, she's fucking 25 or some shit, 24. You know, there are a lot of, like, I got a buddy of mine that I work heavy haul stuff with. The same thing, he speaks English with no accent, but then I find out he's from Quebec. And, I mean, his last name gave it away, but it, you know, the same thing. Like, to hear him tell it, he fucking hates Quebec. Right? So it seems like a lot of the younger people are a lot less, they don't have that chip on their shoulder. They don't have that sense of entitlement that a lot of the middle to older age Quebecois do. And now maybe it's because those older guys are the ones that went through, like, you know, I don't think it was the referendums. Like they went through the country wanting to separate and all of the bullshit that was associated with that. You know, so they've got a whole different worldview, or at least like a view of their own province. You know, guys, it seems like guys like 30 plus are pretty indignant a lot of the time, and most people that are younger, I've had, like, they're all like super nice. So I mean, again, I like when people come to Quebec for like touristy shit. Unless you piss off somebody in a bar or something, everyone's going to treat you like really well and try to speak English because you're a tourist. You're bringing money to the province. When I show up for business stuff, again, like anything trucking related, like when I used to haul glass, we brought a lot of glass into Montreal, like just the kind of around the Montreal area, and then also like farther east in Quebec. The guys in Montreal were really good. Some of the places, like kind of near Quebec City, they're fucking shitty. Like I went to one place and I get out and a guy walks up to me like, "Salut." He just holds his hand out. It's not like a handshake hand. He's holding his hand out because he wants the paperwork. So he's got his hand like, I don't know, you put it horizontal instead of vertical, palm up. Give him the paperwork. He just turns on his heel and walks away. And shuts, like goes inside, shuts the door, and it locks behind him as I'm trying to follow him through. So I'm stuck outside. So I went and sit in my truck. Door opens. I guess I didn't start backing in fast enough, so he just starts yelling at me in French, and I have no idea what he's saying. And the only thing he would say is, "Speak French." no, I'm not speaking French. I don't know enough. Like I know enough French to ask for things, and I'll again, like for like certain people, I'll make an attempt, because usually, like if you end up like with somebody, like I've had people that can't speak English, and it's like, you know, they can say like 3 words of English, and then like I'll use my broken French, and it's usually just we end up fucking laughing our asses off, just trying to like use like, you know, gestures and shit to communicate, and it's funny, and it's not, you know, usually like if the other guy's got a good attitude, but there's a lot of guys, again, especially the older guys, that are absolutely disgusted that the rest of the country doesn't know their language, yet they don't know or speak English. Like again, it's very hypocritical. So I backed in, and then he just kind of like he stood awkward, like uncomfortably close to me, and just stared at me. Like he just followed me around and stared over my shoulder the entire time I'm opening my trailer up. And again, I turned and asked him if he could give me space, and he shrugs his shoulders and just stands there again, because he doesn't speak English. Well, turns out he does speak English. He just, again, he was trying to fuck with me because he doesn't like people from Ontario. So I at that place, I'd spoken to my dispatch and said, I'm not going there again. If I'm going there again, I'm going there with a fucking bat, because I'm going to start fucking hitting the guy with it and tell him that's so fucking far away from me, you need to stand at all times. You know, but again, there were 2 places in the Montreal area I delivered to that were fucking phenomenal. One guy, again, I barely had a fucking accent at all when you talked to him. But they were, again, it was a younger guy. Again, like mid-20s. And maybe because I'm a younger guy too, that like maybe you got more in common type of thing. But it seems like guys, again, young, like Quebecois that are under 30, like don't have that chip on their shoulder. And again, maybe it's just the people that I've come across, and I've just gotten unlucky with certain people. But again, like a big one is the language. There's a lot of frustration over the language, because there are like, again, anybody in like the Montreal area that tells you they don't speak English is full of shit, right? They learn it in fucking school. It's, you know, they just don't want to, or they want to fuck with the English speaker because they know you don't speak French. You know, again, their eyes, well, if you didn't bother to learn French, why should I bother to speak English? Like, well, I don't fucking know, because that's the language the rest of the country uses. You're the only fucking place that doesn't. But when you go into like northern Quebec or more eastern Quebec, you run into people that actually legitimately don't know English. It's like, okay. Again, some of them are great. You just find a way to make it work, like find a way to communicate, and some of them are just fucking idiots. Like my dad went into a place once, and my dad speaks English, right? He's a Dutch immigrant, so he moved here from Holland when he was 16. So he knows Dutch and he knows English. And he's trying to talk to the guy in English. The guy, he knows English, like I said, because he tried to speak to my dad in French. My dad doesn't understand it. So the guy finally switches to English, which means, again, at the time, and because my dad said his English was pretty fucking good, he was very fluent in English. He just didn't want to speak English. Says, you know, we're a bilingual country, right? My dad started speaking to him in Dutch. And the guy's like, what is that? He's like, that's my second language. I'm bilingual. Right? I'm not becoming trilingual. So the guy, you know, muttered a bunch of shit about fucking, you know, foreigners being, you know, stealing our jobs and shit like that. Stomped off. But there's that weird kind of attitude. There's also, like, driving, I find, in Montreal. There's a little bit more third world going on. It reminds, well, maybe not like third world countries, but more like those Russian dash cams. Like, I've watched guys run stop signs, run red lights in front of me, fucking try to... I've watched... I was sitting at an intersection going straight through at a red light, and there was an empty heavy haul truck facing towards me that had to make a left. So he starts making the left, and as he's doing that, and it's only like it's one lane in each direction, right? So the road that he's making a left onto, the laneways approach, like entering that intersection, had a left turn lane of its own. So there were, you know, you could get 2 cars wide right there. He starts making his left, and a car attempted to pass him on the left, on the inside of the turn, which is a humongous no-no when it comes to trucks, especially with heavy haul, because he can't see you at all. car had to stop in the middle of the intersection, and so did the truck. Then the car tries to take off again, but at this point, the other traffic has got him pinned, so the car can't go anywhere. While this is happening, a car attempts to pass the truck on the outside. All three of these vehicles are making a fucking left. Well, the car going around the outside gets most of the way around the truck and then realizes that there's nowhere for him to go, so he just fucking drives on the sidewalk and goes around. And the same thing, you're sitting there like, if there were pedestrians there, they'd be fucking run over, because the guy didn't even fucking slow down, just fucking boom! Monster trucks onto the fucking curb, drives on the full fucking sidewalk, dodges around the fucking pole, so he's on the, partway on the grass of the fucking gas station on the corner, and on the sidewalk, and then just drops off the curb once it's clear of the pole and in front of the truck. And and nobody else seems to bat an eye, and I'm sitting there like, what the fuck? But that seems to happen, that kind of driving happens in Quebec. It's that, again, it feels like, I guess it's more European, but it feels like Russia, right? There's instances like that where you're like, holy, what the fuck is everybody on here? And again, nobody seemed even the least bit surprised. Again, I find too, the left lane is typically people who want to do, the speed limit through here is 100 kilometers an hour, 62 miles an hour. People in the left lane want to do about 110, which is, it's obviously, faster than the speed limit, but it's slower than what Ontario does. And people in the right lane want to do about 90. So the left lane wants to do, for all you fucking Yankee Doodles, the left lane wants to do about 68. The right lane wants to do about 55. So as a semi-truck that, again, my comfortable average is around 65. Even at 62, I either have the choice between catching up to people in the slow lane and constantly having to go in the left lane, or having people come up my ass in the left lane and constantly one around me, but when they go to pass me, they're not really going much faster than I am, so it takes them forever to pass me. Being that it's Sunday when I'm filming this, the roads are pretty empty. And I'm still technically on the perimeter highway around Montreal, so it can get kind of shitty during the week. But there have been times where literally from the time I get onto 30 until the time I get onto what becomes the 401, I do not leave the left lane. I'll sit at 105 or 65 and piss everybody off in the fast lane, because there's nowhere at any point that I can get back in the right lane for starters, and secondly, even if I get back in the right lane, I'm right back in the left. I'm going to have to take that fucking, money hit and drive well under the speed limit, or I got to, stay in the left lane and possibly frustrate some people behind me that want to go faster. So it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of weird. The pickup in front of me is more indicative of the kind of speeds that people normally do in the left lane. Again, having said all that, today seems really good for traffic. Again, it is Sunday, so it's a lot quieter, but it's, again, it's just a kind of a, people don't I don't know, there's no kind of middle ground, and I mean, that's no different than anywhere else in the country, on North America. A lot of people drive now, or once they're in their cars, nobody else exists, so people drive as though, another car or a truck on the road is just like a static obstacle that doesn't contain a person or persons. I had it earlier today in Ontario. I stopped for fuel. I got fuel, or this? No, it was when I stopped for food. I got back on the highway and started accelerating. No, it was after fuel. I'm accelerating and it started raining. So the car next to me throws this, he's passing me. I'm up to about 55. He gets up to about 56, puts his right blinker on, and disappears in front of my hood. Literally so close in front of me that I can't see him. I slow down, just enough I can see, because he had a hatchback, so he's got taillights at the top. He hits his brakes because he's terrified. It's I can't stop. He got, luckily there was nobody in the left lane at the time, so I had to fucking swerve in the left lane to avoid plowing into him, and blasted my horn, and he just gives me the finger, and waves around and was like, can't you see it's raining? pointing at the sky kind of thing. It's like it's rain. It's not like when the roads start getting water pooling on them and you're potentially going to hydroplane, then it's an issue. The roads were dry 30 seconds ago. It just started raining. It's not let's go 15 to 20 miles an hour under the fucking speed limit time yet, right? It's do the fucking speed limit, outrun the fucking storm, and get back into the fucking blue sky that was ahead of us, which, you know, basically like what you see on the camera now. So it was just, again, like fucking stupidity. Okay, what do we got here? I want to have a look at my GPS. I gotta take 15 south. Well, with my luck, GPS will try to tell me to take something else. I thought I had to stay on 30 for a bit, but no, I don't. You just go to the bottom end of Montreal. Yep, auto route 15 Sud. Sud means south. So I gotta go to Champlain. I gotta take 15 to Champlain, New York, and then cross the border there. Get off on the very first exit, like it takes you on I-87, and get off at the very first exit and start two-laning it. So it'll be, it might still be a little bit of daylight by the time I get there, but not much. Like by the time I get onto the two-lane, but not much. So the downside with this particular delivery is that it's scheduled for 5:30 in the morning, which means that by the time I get there, I'm not going to get 10 hours off before I have to deliver. And because I'm getting there, you know, 5:30 in the morning, they're going to knock on my door whether I'm awake or not and want me to get ready to unload. This place is also the only place I've ever been to where you cannot actually, like, predict whether you're going to pump the load off or they're going to pump the load off, depending on the product you bring. And unfortunately, I never looked at I've been to this place twice before. Once I pumped, once they pumped. I never did look at the product to find out, because there's, like, you can get two that say dark chocolate confectionery liquid, but it's the product code that can be different, right? So one can have a higher viscosity, and that's, like, literally the only difference. So unless I start writing down all the product codes and figuring it all out, it's kind of a guessing game. If they're unloading, I back into a bay, I drop my trailer, I pull out front, go back to bed for 2 hours. If they want me to pump, then first thing in the morning I gotta get up and pump the load off. And what you run into there is, like, it's becoming a major source of frustration. I've been talking to one of my buddies that also works here as well. There's like the mentality from truckers where, you know, like, while I'm on the road, I don't have a life, I don't have free time, I fucking drive, I don't sleep, I don't do this. Like, one guy was, telling me all about how before he logs, he'd fucking take a little booger sugar and just run nonstop. Right? That was how we did it back in the old days. It's like that, those are gone. And there will be a lot of people that will criticize me for not being a real truck driver, especially, why'd you become an owner operator? I am entitled to 10 hours off. I want those 10 hours off. I get very fidgety, like I get very like stressed out and antsy if I don't get downtime. And I very much don't believe that I should have to use my off-duty time, which is my time, to work. But it's still pretty typically expected of most companies, the one I work for included, that your off-duty time is working time. I've been scheduled and dispatched on loads where it's very evident, like, the only way this load is going to work on this scheduling is if I deliver off-duty, or if I pick up off-duty. Like, the load I have was scheduled to load at 3 a.m. this morning. I had to take a trailer to Oakville, which is like 4 hours down the road from where I was. Well, 3, because it was Saturday, so it wasn't too bad. 3.5. Drop the trailer, bobtail back, so you're 7 hours into your day. So by the time I get back to where I'm loading, it's like 8 o'clock at night. So now I got to load at 3 a.m. So I've got 6 hours off. I got to get up at 2 effectively to hook up to the trailer, hook everything up, drive next door, well, it's down the block, down the street, to go load, like check in and everything and be there for 3 o'clock. So again, it's doable, right? If the second I got there, go to bed, sleep for 6 hours, get up and go and load. But again, when I get told, well, you can sleep while they're loading you. Well, no, you can't. A lot of these places have signs specifically stating drivers are not allowed to sleep whilst they're being loaded, because they're, in the event of an emergency, like if there's a fire, they're going to pound on your door, tell you there's a fire, and you're expected to get up and run. If you're asleep, you don't hear it, you might burn to death. Like where I loaded this, they don't have any signs saying as such, but I've been told as such by guys, because they did a fire drill once when I was there. That's the guy was explaining. He's like, yeah, like technically, like I wasn't asleep. He said, like we haven't had signs up, but we got to make sure the drivers don't sleep in the trucks while they're loading, in case an actual fire happens. But again, you say that to dispatch. Well, no, that's a suggestion. You just go ahead and sleep. Well, guys will knock on your door and check to make sure that you're awake. So what you run into is, okay, you've been off duty. By the time you're loaded, you're legally allowed to drive now. However, you would like to get at least another 2 or 3 hours of sleep. But getting another 2 or 3 hours of sleep, if I had loaded at 3:30 in the morning, I would have been out of there by about 5:30, maybe 6. So that's basically like prime start your daytime. If I were to sleep for another 3 hours and get my full, not even my full 10 off, get 9 hours to myself, I would have been at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty late to start your day. And what you end up with is situations like this. Like I started my day at 7:30, but because of traffic, because of stopping for lunch, because of stopping for fuel, even though I haven't run out of hours in my day to drive, I've got, actually, I should be at my delivery within the next, like in an hour. It's become so much later in the day now that again, when I get to my delivery tonight, I am not going to have a full 10 hours off before I'm expected to deliver, which means that I have to get up and deliver on my off-duty time. And again, regardless of how I deliver, it means I got to get up and move stuff around. Again, hopefully they pump off, which means I can, like I said, because I pull out of the bay with my truck, I can go to sleep. It's also difficult to sleep though when you're expecting a knock on the door to be told you're done. But then I'm expected to be ready to go to work, because dispatch will, like, my dispatches loads based on your delivery times, right? So they'll have me, they'll schedule me to go somewhere and schedule it for the amount of time it would take to drive, and my dispatch keeps making the mistake of looking at the delivery time and saying, well, he delivers at 5:30, so we're going to get him to pick a load up that's 4 hours down the road. Well, he delivers at 5:30, that means he can load it at 10:30 or 9:30. It's like, but it takes 2 hours to unload. So they forget that, well, now I'm out of there at 7:30 at the earliest. So now I've only got 2 hours to do 4 hours worth of driving, and then they ask why you're late. Well, because you guys didn't schedule it right. And it's like, well, why didn't you try to unload earlier? Because my schedule says 5:30. I'm not getting up at 3:30 when I got there at fucking 9 o'clock at night to unload. My dad has always been a big stickler for do whatever the company tells you, do whatever dispatch tells you, and like he told me the other day, he's like, no, just fucking take your sleep. Fuck them. If they're gonna schedule stuff like that, fuck it. Sleep in, do what you want to do. I got lucky last night. My buddy showed up. He got to I got to the shipper yesterday and camped out. Where we have a yard a block up from the shipper. So I went to our yard, camped out. He got in around, I want to say 10 o'clock at night. Woke me up because he wanted to he wanted to do that, like, irritate you and then like give you good news type of fucking shtick. I guess his load, he was supposed to load at 5:30 in the morning. His load got pushed back indefinitely. He's still sitting there waiting to load. So he's like, but I was just over there and they said your load's ready, so I'm going to take your trailer and load your load for it. I was like, fuck, thanks, buddy. So I got to sleep in until 8 o'clock this morning, wake up, my trailer's there, loaded, ready to go. Well, I said I got up at about 7:30, hook up to the thing, and just won't fuck off. So I had a good day that way. But it'll be the same thing. Mark will sit there all day, and if they load him at 7 o'clock tonight, he's been up all day, but he hasn't driven anywhere. Dispatch is going to expect him to drive all night. And again, it's at least where we're working, there's a really bad disconnect between truckers and the office staff. Mark had a problem with the trailer. One of the valves got hit by a truck in the tank wash yards, because that happens all the time, and needed to be replaced. And he had no idea how to do it, because Mark knows how to fix trailers quite well, but this is basically a pipe fitter job. Like they're literally like pipe fittings for hot liquids. So he's never been taught any of this, so he calls the service manager and asks him what to do, and the guy says, figure it out, man. You knew what you signed up for, and that's the end of it. And Mark was livid, because that's the guy you're supposed to call when there's a problem with any of the trailers. He's supposed to help you through shit. And because it was the weekend, the guy didn't want to deal with it. His response is, you figure it out. Like, it's what you signed up for. But it's like, again, being a dispatcher or being a shop supervisor at a trucking company, you've signed up for a 24-hour job. And if you're going to claim that you have not, then don't be surprised when truck drivers, which they have at my company, begin quitting and dropping like flies. We've lost, the company hired about 15 owner operators, all in the last 2 years, and they've lost 10 of them. They've hired more, nowhere near as many as they've lost, but they've lost a boatload of owner operators in the last 2 months, because company policies are changing and reverting back to when the company only had about 30 trucks, where now they've got 70. So it's a 70 or 100 truck company being run like a 30 truck company, and that doesn't work. Again, I got a buddy of mine that works for Jonker Trucking, and there is nobody in on weekends, but the truck drivers don't work weekends either. Except for the odd, rare time where shit goes bad, not only he's on the road and he's got to sit out for a weekend, he is guaranteed home every Sunday, because his office staff are always off on Sundays, and they will not expect their drivers to go to work when they don't have to work. Right? Now that's a rare exception to trucking, to the typical trucking company mindset. But on the inverse, if a driver is expected to be available 24/7, he needs a 24/7 support staff. There's no way around it. I need to be able to get a hold of somebody to make a decision as to what to do with a trailer that's broken or messed up. I'm going to make this a two-parter, because we're getting to 40 minutes, and it'll be a fucking pain in the ass. So I will be back. Have fun.